All right, everyone, let's see. Everyone's letting people in. Perfect. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is ProfessionalQuest Accounting, and I am Peggy Saragotis. I'm a faculty instructor in the School of Business in the Accounting Department, and I'm very excited to be here today. This is all about accounting, and for you to find out as a student what accounting is about, and to get some real live advice and information from our panelists here, and to find out what opportunities there may be for you in accounting. And with us today is Pam Hemstreet from CLA, Clifford Larson Allen. We also have Kim McGlatten from GAO, and I hope I pronounced your last name correctly.
It's McGatlin.
McGatlin, okay, from GAO. I know we've spoken so many times before.
I know.
If I mispronounce anyone's name, please forgive me. My last name is so challenging, I mispronounce it myself quite often. We have Michelle Schmittel as well. And Michelle, because I'm looking at the list here, which firm are you with?
With BDO.
BDO, okay, great. And Chip Helm, and he's with Thompson Greenspun. And students, please feel free to ask your questions, put them in the chat box, and the ones that our people in the background will be sending your questions along to me so that I can go ahead and ask the panelists on behalf of you. So please don't be shy, put your questions in the chat box so they can be filtered over to me. To kickstart this afternoon's 3:30 session, it's a half-hour session. I'm going to start with some questions that you students may have thought about already yourself and would like some of these answers. So I'm going to start with Chip. Why do you think students typically select accounting as their field of study or for a career?
Well, so I went to George Mason and graduated in 1985. And I think the big reason for me is that I knew I could get a job because it was very important to me, and it was analytic. So I think in coming back to the university, when I've met students, I think that kind of analytic piece, people like accounting and a lot of the things we do for that piece versus maybe something more in the English or the history or the sciences. Okay,
great. Michelle, why did you choose the field of accounting?
So I think for the accounting, similar to what Chip said, it doesn't matter good times or bad times. Whether we're in a recession or not, you have to have an accountant to account for closing the books, auditing those books, doing the taxes for companies. You need to have the accountant. Now, what are the skills of the accountant, and that that you would be a good fit? It's interesting. I was a very much, I want black and white. There's always an answer. Everything balances. It's a perfect world. Right? And Kim, what happens? We learn a little bit later in our career, there's a lot of gray areas. So yes, I mean, as you kind of go through it, you get to learn the different levels as an accountant, whether it's a staff accountant, an auditor, tax person, as you progress through your career. And it does get a little bit more nebulous, but you do learn from those advisors above you how to manage through that. And people always say, you're introverted, so you'll be great as an accountant. They don't have to talk or work with people, but there are people involved. So good, strong people skills, good communication skills are also extremely helpful in this field.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not a boring area. There's so much involved between analysis and helping companies with strategy and so forth. Pam, Kim, would you like to input as to why you chose accounting?
Sure, I'll go ahead. My main reason was that I felt like being an accountant, I could work in almost any field because like Michelle noted, everybody needs an accountant, whether economically good or bad times, but also every single profession needs some sort of accounting. So I happened to end up in financial institutions, which was really not, it was sort of a path I ended up taking, but you can do any industry, and that's what makes it so interesting. So if there's something that you like sort of as a hobby, you can be an accountant almost within that industry. So if you like sports, there's plenty of jobs within that arena. If you like entertainment, there's accounting in that arena. And then there's your general stuff like tax, but each one of the fields of accounting, tax, assurance, they also you can do them in almost any industry at all. So that was my main reason, is I didn't really know what I wanted to, like, where I wanted to end up, field wise. And I knew accounting would be something that was constant throughout them all.
And students, let me just let you know, in case you're not sure what GAO stands for, it's Kim, I'll let Kim go ahead and explain it, but it is a government agency, so a little different than where the other three speakers are working. So Kim?
Yeah, it's the Government Accountability Office. It's actually in the legislative branch of the government. So most of the time you're hearing all about the executive branch agencies like HHS and such. And I will say, actually, when I went to college, I actually started studying engineering, and I got a few years in and decided I didn't want to do it. And I switched to business. I found like it was a really good fit for me, particularly accounting, just skill set wise. After I worked for the Federal Reserve as a bank examiner for a couple of years, and then I went to one of the big four for 4 years, and then I've been at GAO for 20 years now. And I like it because the variety of work, because you can be an accountant, you can be an auditor. I do auditing. I actually do performance auditing, which is a whole different sort of niche area, but it's what I like I get to learn about new things all the time. And so the flexibility that it is as a job, but also always in demand, it's been a great fit for me.
Okay, that's wonderful. And let me just ask another question. A lot of our students are, in today's time, they're concerned about the job market, and are they going to find a position post-graduation, and what kind of practice experience do they need to try to obtain ahead of time, externships, internships? I thought maybe you could just speak a little bit as to what qualities are you looking for when you review a candidate's resume? Michelle?
So thanks, Peggy. That's a good question. I think no matter what period of time we've looked at, obviously the recessions that we've seen, the pandemic that we've seen, you're always going to look for leaders. You're going to look for the hardworking, the good academics, right? Strong academics piece of it. And who are the people who are going that extra mile? So I remember when I was sitting in one of my many interviews coming out of college, the thing that I wanted to make sure that they saw and that's what they appreciated was I had a strong academic background, I had leadership skills, and I did that extra piece. So one thing that I did to try and stand out was I did an international study abroad where I did an internship in Spain. And so that was something different that I could talk about. I knew that when I graduated, I wanted to work in, it was the big 8 at the time. And I wanted to work internationally and use my Spanish. And then my goal was to make partner and then to start my own practice and grow it internationally. Well, I've decided I'm done. I've made partner and I'm going to stick with BDO and doing the international work that I do now, which is a lot of the cross-border collaboration with all of our other countries for our clients. So that's, to me, what stands out is going that extra mile, doing something a little bit different that is exciting for you. If you're find something that you're passionate about, then show that in that interview.
Okay, great. Wonderful. And I just want to let all of the students know that all of the panelists we have here today with us are actively looking for students or opportunities on Handshake with all of these, all of the employers here today. Chip, what are you looking for? What important qualities do you think a candidate should have regarding extracurricular activities, internships, things like that?
I think it's a lot like what Michelle said. I had a co-op program when I was at Mason, and I worked for Department of Defense Inspector General. So that kind of solidified in my mind that I wanted to be in accounting. But I think those extra types of things in terms of leadership are very important. So if there's organizations that you've been in that you've helped run or participate in leadership of the organization, obviously good grades and working hard. I mean, one of the things that I think all accountants share is that you have different times of year when you're very busy, and it can be very different, whether you're in a not-for-profit setting, a governmental setting, public accounting, or working for a private company. we all have our ebbs and flows, and the benefit of that is that some parts of the year are a little bit slower, but you need to be able to ramp it up and work hard during those times of year. So I think it is very important that you understand whichever kind of employer you decide to choose, because there are a lot of choices out there, that it fits what's good for you and what works for you.
And just to piggyback on that question, a lot of students are learning good technical skills at George Mason University. Are there certain technical skills that you're looking for from a student when reviewing their resume? Excel, things like that.
Yeah, from our standpoint, if you've got experience in, I mean, it's crazy the folks that we hire now, what they can do in Excel versus I'm like a dinosaur, my kids would say. But yeah, all those skills are very important, and I'm sure with all of us, not only do you just, if you look at public accounting, you know, you might be on the attest side, you might be on the tax side, but then you've got to conquer all the different types of software. I mean, I always remark, you know, it's one thing to figure out how to do a tax return, but you've got to figure out the tax software. You got to figure out the scheduling software that keeps track of all the tax returns. I mean, everything today is IT. I mean, even our whole HR system, it's all virtual. So those skills are important. I think somebody remarked earlier, communication skills are important. I still think writing is very important, because you need to be able to communicate. You also need to know how to be able to verbally communicate is very important, because you may have to call up a client. You need to get an answer right away to something. And you can't be intimidated by, you know, talking to the owner of a company on the phone about some information you need.
That's good advice. Some of my students ask me, you know, they ask me, do you need to be a leader or president of a club in the business school? Or can I be or could they be a leader of a club or organization outside the business school that gives them access to extra practice with soft skills? Pam, what do you think about that?
I think any opportunity you have in any setting to be a leader, even if it's a, you know, a religious youth group, if you're ROTC, do something military, I think it doesn't have to be specific to business, because I think all of those other arenas that you have available to you to be a leader in different kind of interacting with different types of people, they all bring something different to the table, which is wonderful for us as employers, because we get to see a different side of you and how you interact. And you've learned not just in a business setting and not just the professional way to manage conflict, which is something that comes up in every setting. And I think that's a really important skill set. And a lot of times you get that outside of your business societies.
Okay, great. Another question that is often asked by students is, do I need a graduate degree to find a position in accounting? And we have a couple of different things going on here. We have public accounting and government. So I'll let Kim go first to answer that question.
I think it's going to depend a little bit on kind of the job you're looking for. So, you know, to get it, we strongly encourage, and we really want the folks coming to us to have a CPA or be eligible to sit for the CPA. So, you know, depending how many hours you have of undergraduate, you might meet those standards, or you may need, you know, the graduate school. And as far as positions throughout the government, a master's is not necessarily necessary. It certainly is for certain positions, but not others. And one thing I myself always state when I talk to students is, you know, you've worked so hard to get through the 4 years or the 5 years, that go ahead and do the CPA. Take that extra time. It is a bear. I will, you know, I'm not gonna say it's not. And we probably, all of us sat for it when you had to sit for all 4 sections at the same time. But, you know, go ahead and go that extra mile, because that can help distinguish you from other applicants in the future and open doors that you don't expect to open. And it's one thing I never regret, is going through that and maintaining my CPA. So, you know, it's not a straightforward answer as far as graduate or undergraduate degree. There are opportunities for both out there, certainly. But as far as really how to set yourself out there, and, I'm talking your whole career is, going forward and achieving the CPA.
Okay, great. Anybody else would like to piggyback on that? Is a graduate degree necessary to find a job in the private sector? I would say public accounting.
I would agree with Kim as far as the CPA is the more critical. I remember talking to a recruiter when I was kind of in the midst and I was switching jobs within the fields. And they said, an MBA, you don't need that. You have your CPA. You have all this experience. So it really depends on what you're looking for in your overall goal. If you're going for a CFO position, then you might want to go down the MBA path to have that perspective on things. But I think kind of where people are when they come out of school, your CPA, the exam is extremely academic. So the closer you do it to your graduation from GMU, the better off you're going to be. And you don't have to take even 5 parts, right, Chip? Over 2.5 days.
That's right.
That you get to take it a little bit more scattered, which can be a pro and a con, but definitely get it out of your way and go for that CPA.
And I've always said that you're still in that school mentality, right? I've known some people that have tried to take it 4 or 5 years after graduating. And, once you get away from school for a while, I think it's harder.
Yes, that's for sure. One of the questions that students also ask me, they go, Professor T, I just think it's boring. Like, what exciting things do people do in accounting? And then I go into some of my own stories. Can anyone maybe provide a story as to why accounting can be very exciting, especially in today's time? It's changed so much over the last few decades.
I will say, like, the one thing like that I've been doing on performance audits, I do a little bit of financial audits, and some of my coworkers, they do the IRS financial audit and some others, but I do performance audits. And so I've gotten the variety of work I've gotten to do has been so interesting, and the number of people in other agencies and such that I've gotten to meet, like when Deepwater Horizon oil spill happened. Now I know that's like 11 years ago, but I was put on to do a performance audit, and I was interacting with Hill staff, I think 25, 30 different meetings. Some of them were with BP in the room. That, was a total, so interesting to learn the different aspects of the oil spill and how the Coast Guard responds or EPA responds, and just always being able to learn something, is something I like. I recently shifted a couple of years ago, and I've been doing DoD financial management issues, which 10 years ago I was like, I want no part of it, but I'm now knee deep in issues with Joint Strike Fighter program and accounting adjustments where I'm talking trillions of dollars, and which does boggle my mind, but it is, so there are aspects. It isn't interesting to everyone, and I realize that, but for me, I've really enjoyed the opportunities. I'm sure others have a similar backgrounds or similar types of.
There are many opportunities in accounting to make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else would like to piggyback on that with their own personal story of some exciting opportunities you've had in your career?
Sure, I'll go. So I started in public accounting, did that for 10 years in the United States and abroad. And then I flipped to industry, did that in a large publicly traded company that was under investigation by the DOJ, the SEC, and the Mounted Police in Canada.
Wow, that's exciting. Yes, it's stressful.
Yeah, so I did not close that. I went in to solve it. And they were at risk for getting delisted from the exchanges. They had 5 material weaknesses. They manipulated the financial statements. I mean, it was pretty intense. And I was put in charge of everything outside of North America related to revenue recognition. And so I was in charge of all of EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, because I had lived in Spain. And oh, by the way, I had also lived and worked in Germany for 4 years in public accounting. So I had those languages, plus I had worked and I had volunteered in South America. So I had all the Caribbean, Latin America. And then they said, might as well just throw in Asia. So I had all of Asia Pacific. I did not sleep much during those years, kind of round the clock, but we did resolve the issues that needed to be done. It afforded me a lot of opportunities to go travel to these different countries, learn about other cultures, and do trainings in order to get rid of our material weaknesses. One of which was, you don't know US GAAP, which is a problem when you're on an exchange like the New York Stock Exchange, where you're supposed to report. I also, after I did that job, I moved over into a large nonprofit healthcare system, where I was asked, well, you don't know anything about healthcare, how are you going to learn? I said I also didn't know German, and moved to Germany knowing the word kindergarten and Gesundheit, and did an audit all in German. And I explained the differences between German GAAP and US GAAP to the board of, the audit committees and what have you over there. So then I did that. I worked on a 990, which is, they had just done an expanded form if you're in the nonprofit space for taxes. So I got to learn that. I decided to, when we moved with my husband for the military over to California, to Monterey, I was a stay-at-home mom for a couple of years, raising our 2 children, moved back to the East Coast, and we were at the Pentagon, and he retired out Army after almost 25 years. All the while, every 2 to 3 years, I got to keep some kind of accounting job, whether it was a volunteer capacity when I was out in California, or whether I was in Germany, or whether I was traveling somewhere in Asia. I had the opportunity to be able to do something fun and exciting, and I love it. And then my final destination was BDO. So they looked at my resume on LinkedIn and said, we see you speak German. It was 15 years ago that I had spoken German. I get on the phone with BDO, and they said, this lady's retiring. We need somebody to take over as liaison between the United States and Germany. You interested? I interviewed. They asked a question in English. I responded in German, and I somehow managed to speak German for another 25 minutes of that interview. Got the job offer, and I'm now a partner at BDO, working with the German desk. And they gave me now the French desk, the Benelux, which is Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. And so I get to work with all these different countries, learning different languages, learning about the different cultures and the challenges. So as you can tell, I love my job. I love accounting. There's so many fun things to do in this space. So, and I didn't even tell you about like the fun inventories you get to do when you first working.
Well, that's actually really interesting. It's an amazing trajectory, a very full trajectory, a very wonderful trajectory. I have one more question to move on to, but I want to give Pam a chance to maybe chime in and say what she finds exciting about her job to inspire our future accountants here.
Sure. So I happen to be, like I mentioned, deal a lot with financial institutions. And one of the things I really like best about my job is our heavy interaction with cyber and IT. And I love that. I love learning all these new systems, but I also love learning and understanding how to avoid all of the scams and being on the kind of the cutting edge of the next scam that's coming into the banking and financial institutions arena. So it's sort of like you're almost on the fraud side of the world in many ways, because you are learning about these different criminal activities that are happening in cyberspace. And I find that, for considering how rather vanilla financial institutions can be from other perspectives, I think we have some excitement in, the fact that like they are definitely a target for a lot of crime. And so we get to see kind of the ins and outs of that world. And, one of my dreams when I first came out of school was I wanted to be a forensic accountant with the FBI. Now my path didn't go that way, but I feel like in many ways I end up getting a lot of that forensic work in what I do, just from different angles.
Well, I think it's safe to say that a career in accounting puts you in the bullseye of information, whether you're in a government agency or whether you're in public accounting or in industry. You really see from the position that a person is in, you're in the bullseye of everything that's going on. Everything goes through accounting in one way or another. So that's very exciting. Well, to piggyback, I think Michelle said something about LinkedIn. I have a question about LinkedIn. How can, and I'll throw this over to Chip, how can potential candidates improve their resumes on Handshake or LinkedIn to make a more impactful impression? And if you could just talk a little bit about any advice you have for these virtual interviews. It's all new territory here for our students.
So I think on LinkedIn and Handshake, the important thing again is what are you doing? You know, you'll put on there that you're currently a junior or a sophomore, whatever, wherever you are in school, some of your maybe previous experience, and then your outside activities and your interests are very important there, so that folks can see, you know, that you have either leadership positions or what you're doing outside of school. And many of us, I know I did when I was going to school, I had a part-time job. I think it's important to put that on there too, because people can understand, you know, you're not just doing one thing, you're doing many things, so you can see that you're multitasking. The second part of your question, I'm sorry, was?
Do you have any for students in this new world of interviewing virtually?
Yeah, I think you got to pretend like you're right there in person. I mean, so many times I'll see people, you know, in a virtual meeting, and you can tell that they're distracted. I think it's very important to maintain the eye contact and ask questions. Try to have maybe a list of questions that you want to go over, and be able to take some notes, so that if somebody does say something, that you can, you know, dig a little deeper on those things. But you want to really be engaged and make it as much as you can, because, you know, we're all pretty well used to virtual now after 2 years, but it's still very important to just have that presence that you would if you were in person.
And let me ask just before we're about to, we have a few minutes before we end the 3:30 session, so that students know, what is the deadline for applying for internships for this spring season for where you are? Pam, Kim, Michelle, Chip, please feel free to chime in so that students know the deadline for applying for these positions.
From our end, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you. From CLA, we have open postings right now for the summer, and we're already advertising for 2023 as well. So we're looking for summer 2022, fall of 2022, and then all into 2023. And the nice thing about the firm is that, you know, we are, like the rest of them, located in multiple places. So if you are visiting at GMU and you're not a permanent resident of this area, we do have offices in other locations as well.
Okay, great. Kim?
So our summer internship for this upcoming summer, we had that announcement and it's closed. In about next week, we will be going up with our fall internship announcement, which for us, fall is a great time to intern, and it can be full or part-time because our financial audits are November 15th. So it's a busy time. So you get a lot of great experience. It'll go up on Handshake, but also USA Jobs is where all federal agencies, including us, have to post their jobs. So if you don't have a profile, I suggest setting one up and going and searching. There's an enormous amount of jobs out there, but you know, you can also select an agency like GAO and get notified anytime they put up an announcement. So it's a great place to look if you haven't explored it already.
Okay, great. Thank you. Michelle?
So for BDO, we have a rolling process. So you just keep going in as far as the opportunities. Whenever you are looking for an opportunity, you put in your application. If you're looking for kind of a hard date by which you want to do it, you can say March is the next phase, right, that we're looking at. But we are constantly looking at applicants as we go through the process. It's a great time to be in your place, like coming out of school. There's a great need for your skill set. So you should be excited.
Yeah, there's a good need. There's a strong need for accounting students, that's for sure. Chip, any word on would you like to chime in?
Yes, very similar to Michelle. We've kind of got a rolling process here. You can go to our website, but we're always looking. So please send your resume. Winter, obviously, and spring are filled up, but we're looking at summer and next fall and next winter.
Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you so much. This wraps our 3:30 session, and our 4 p.m. session will start soon. Students, please know that you will find all of these opportunities on your Handshake account, and you should go ahead and take a look at that and get your resume all nicely spruced up, and check out those opportunities. And you can also stay. We will have all of the panelists in breakout sessions from 5 to 5:30. So think of some questions, come to a breakout session and ask all of these panelists here at our 3:30 session, additional questions and get to meet them and make that networking connection. Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Peggy.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, students. We're about to start our 4 p.m. session. Ready. Everyone will be joining us in just a moment. In this 4 p.m. session, we're going to have PwC, Grant Thornton, RSM, and Amazon. So this should be very exciting. And if you have any questions, students, please post them in the chat box and they'll be filtered over to me. And if you haven't had a chance yet to visit Career Services, I recommend that you make a virtual appointment, or if they have in-person appointments, I'm not sure if they do, make an appointment to have someone take a look at your resume and to help you out with your LinkedIn or whatever else you need, so you get some information for these externships, internships, and postgraduate positions. Let's see, we're just waiting here for our panelists to join us. There I see Alex with Amazon. All right, Erika, Nicole, and Chris. All right, welcome. My name is Peggy Saragotis. I'm accounting faculty with the School of Business, and I'm excited to be moderating this session today. And students, in this 4 p.m. session, we have Erika Klein with RSM United States. We also have Nicole Stroud with PwC. We also have Chris Tetrault. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Tetrault.
Tetrault.
Close enough.
That's what I say about my last name too. Grant Thornton. And then we have Alexander Yo. Is that correct? Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay, with Amazon. So that's nice. We have a little bit of, we have 3 firms in here, and then we have Amazon, which we all know about Amazon, and they know my address. They frequently come to my front door on a daily basis. And we have our students here today who are interested in accounting and hearing all about all of the exciting things a career in accounting can provide, and the exciting opportunities that may be opening or currently open for them to partake. So I'm going to ask a list of questions and that our students frequently want to know about. I think I'm going to start with Alex, just because I'm so curious about Amazon. What inspired you to go into accounting, and what brought you to Amazon?
Yeah, so, well, I think my parents were a big contributor. They're both kind of on the business side. My mom's an accountant. My dad was kind of in business intelligence and analytics. So I started actually at Grant Thornton, and then I moved over to Guidehouse, which is the formerly PwC's public sector, and then eventually made my way over to Amazon. And honestly, I think what got me so interested was I always knew I wanted to be in business, but I didn't know what I really wanted to do in business. It's such a broad field, but everyone says accounting is the DNA of business, and you have to know accounting if you want to do anything in business. And it's really the truth. Quite honestly, I'm not your typical accountant. I don't do audits or close the books or anything. I'm kind of your hybrid, kind of the new breed of accountants that's really focused on process improvement, automation, data analytics, a lot of those kind of new up and coming trendy topics. And being at Amazon, specifically AWS, you can't really get more on the front line of the trends on where the industry is going and how they're developing analytics. So that's what drew me over to Amazon, and I'm very excited in the job that I do.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You mentioned PwC, so I'll throw the question over to Nicole. What inspired you to go into accounting, and do you find the career route exciting?
Sure. So
as far as what got me into accounting, it's one of those things where it's like everybody needs accountants, right? Like no matter whatever your passion is, right? Whether that's not-for-profits, charities, or different types of businesses, everybody needs an accountant. So I was like, okay, I can see a lot of different things. I can work at different places and kind of at my point in my career, when I came out of college, it was job security, right? It was we're always hiring accountants, right? Everybody's to this day is still hiring accountants. I kind of got into it for the wrong reason, from a perspective of I thought assets plus, had equal liabilities and equity. And that was like, it was all black and white and there was no gray to it. And I find that that's kind of the reason I've stayed in it, is the gray, right? Everything we do is very challenging. We're always working with new issues, different issues, interpretations. I find it to be very challenging, which has kept me kind of ingrained in what I'm doing and excited to keep doing what I'm doing.
Okay, great. Erika, what got you into accounting, and do you find it exciting, or what about it do you find exciting?
So I actually really like math. At least I liked math when I was in high school, but I knew that I didn't want to be a teacher. So no offense to anybody who's part of the faculty, but that's kind of how I fell into accounting. So I actually took an accounting course when I was a sophomore in high school. And then I decided that was going to be my major. And then at the time I was working and going to school at night. So my employer was really adamant about becoming a CPA. So it wasn't only just, becoming an accountant, but becoming a CPA, but kind of similar to what Nicole had said. I kind of felt like it was job security, and that no matter where I went, there was always going to be a business need to do accounting. So that's kind of why I got into it.
Okay, and Chris, just so the students can hear different perspectives, what brought you to accounting?
Yeah, so I kind of backed into it. I actually, before I became an accountant, I went to law school. So
Usually it's the other way around.
correct. But what happened in law school was I basically, and I didn't know this going in, a lot of the business classes and the tax classes were what I excelled in, did best in. So I basically, and one of the main partners at GT I knew at the time was in tax. And so he basically recruited me to do it, and kind of gave me the idea of doing it. And I've kind of been here ever since in the industry. I like it. It's challenging. It uses both of my backgrounds. So there's not many industries that do that. So, that's kind of how I got into it. And it still keeps me challenged to this day. So.
And it's always changing. It's always evolving and changing. Just so that our students know, do you see that there is a strong need for accountants in the workforce currently?
Yeah, like there's not enough.
Yes, that's what I
There's
keep
not
telling
nearly
them.
enough. I mean, it's the overall, they talk about the overall labor shortage. Well, it's especially tough in our industry. I mean, ever since the pandemic hit, it's been, and even before that, there was still a huge need for accountants, but since that's happened, it's extremely competitive on the labor front to get accountants. So, as far as people talking about job security, yeah, I mean, if you're an accountant, you have job security for sure. You're kind of gonna have your pick of jobs. It's that competitive to get people to do it. So for sure.
Okay, that's great. I mentioned that to our students as well, but it's always better if they hear that actually from an employer, rather than me. I like for them to hear it actually from the people who are hiring. And again, students, these panelists in here with us today, you can also find those job opportunities in Handshake, and they will be sticking around with us for the 5 p.m. breakout session. So you can go ahead and start your networking with these employers in the breakout sessions and ask some questions. It's a great place to start to get to know them and to connect. So I'm going to just go back to Alex, because Amazon's a little different than the firms. And I'm going to pose this question. What are you looking for each one of you? What are you looking for from a candidate, from a student at George Mason for one of your positions, internship or graduate position after graduation? What are you looking for on their resume? Alex?
Yeah, so Amazon, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Amazon leadership principles. We have 14 of them, and they're posted on our website, and I'll post a link to them in the chat after I'm done speaking. But really embodying those leadership principles, and specifically from a student perspective, we want someone that's willing to take ownership, to put themselves out there, and will really take a lead role on these projects that we have. I know I'm mentoring an intern right now, and he's in charge of automating a whole enterprise discount program for the worldwide AWS organization. So this is going to affect more than $1 billion of revenue that we offer our customers in discounts. And so he's really taking a hands-on approach, but also being very proactive. So taking the time to ask the questions that he needs to understand, and learn and be curious. That's one of our other leadership principles, always learning and trying to figure out what the right thing is to do and how to get there. So really those two are key to kind of succeeding in really any career, not just at Amazon, but at Amazon, that's really the expectation, is that you're going to come in, you're going to lead the work, and then you're going to learn and continue to push forward and raise the bar, as we like to call it.
And what kind of at Amazon what's a typical entry-level position for an accounting student at Amazon?
So we have a accounting and finance rotational program. There's really 3 or 4 different tracks that you can go. So you can go with the operational accounting track, and that's really what I'm speaking to today, which you're going to be moving around different, you get 3 6-month stints pretty much. And the focus is to give you a broad range of experience across Amazon and different topics. So you can do assets, you can do contract agreements. There's many different categories that you can go to, payments, whatever you want to do. And you rotate around this program, and you get introduced to the different leaderships, you get introduced to many different managers, and at the end you get to decide where you want to end up. And there's people that even transfer out of the program and they end up doing business intelligence somewhere else, or they'll do program management in the accounting sector because they didn't like operational accounting. That's what a couple of my teammates do. And so there's a lot of opportunity, and we really focus on you driving your own career. So whatever you start to get interested in, our managers and mentors will be there for you to get you the opportunities that you're looking for.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Nicole, what kind of entry-level positions do graduates typically fall into at PwC?
So for PwC, we have kind of what I'll call our traditional parts of the business, right? We have audit, we have tax, we have consulting, and we have entry-level positions at all of those areas, right? So I'm an auditor. I sit in the audit side. I've sat there my entire career. So there's definitely opportunities, and similar to kind of what Alex has described, right, from a perspective of doing rotations and tours in other groups to get different experiences. And that's, we work in a more remote environment now, so it's a little easier than it was a couple years ago in regards to that. But we definitely, have what I would call the traditional kind of 3 pieces. We're broken up a little bit differently now, where we have audit and like tax compliance are kind of working together, and then we have our tax consulting and our traditional consulting practice that's there. But we've got various opportunities, whether those are internship opportunities at the sophomore and junior levels, and then also whether or not you're going into a 5th year an internship opportunity, in addition to kind of a new hire, kind of entry level new associate position as well.
Okay. Erika, Chris, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, just kind of similar. We have different practices. So we have consulting, audit, and tax as well. I'm in the tax side, actually in state and local tax. So I would say that the firm has different programs where they have a pathways program, which is more like for an internship. And then obviously, if we hire you right out of school, if you haven't had the opportunity to participate in the internship, you can, come in as an associate If you can come in directly to the state and local tax practice, you could also go into federal tax, which is more compliance and kind of more of an more generalist tax type position, I would say, versus the state and local tax group that I'm in. But there's definitely a lot of opportunities for anybody that's coming in, whether you pick one route when you start. There's always like rotation programs that you can participate in even throughout your career. So I would say in terms of what we're looking for, I think it's anybody that's kind of, willing to collaborate, somebody that's like team oriented, obviously focused on your accounting degree, and pursuing the CPA would be ideal, because not only is accounting majors kind of trending down, but I think even the CPAs are starting to go that way as well. So I would definitely like to see somebody that's kind of focused on that and wants to, continue to learn, challenge themselves, work with, various groups to kind of just, grow themselves in their career.
Okay, great. And I noticed it was RSM US. I just want to let our students know that RSM is an international company, so there may be opportunities on that front too, possibly.
Yes. Yep.
Chris, would you like to add anything to that question? Or what a typical entry level position would look like? And
yeah, I mean, I think like at GT, it's obviously a similar type of firm. I mean, kind of the firm are all going to have their three buckets. I guess the one thing I would say is that our tax practice takes a little different approach and kind of has a formal program set up where each of the new people that come in, it basically you get assigned to make sure that you get a broad base of experience across all of the service lines, so that when you are, by the time you get to be 2, 3, 4 years in, you have a good idea of what you want to specialize in, rather than just having people come in, not really know anything, and they're assigned to a specific group. Because that did happen in the past. And to be honest, it helps with retention and it helps with recruiting people when you can tell them, we're going to give you the experience of being able to try out all these different things, figure out what you like and what you're interested in, and then you go into your specialty group. So that's a little bit of a different program that they've developed, but I know they do a similar thing. They try to do a similar thing in audit and to some degree in consulting and in those practices as well.
okay, great. And we're all doing, all of the students are doing all of this recruitment process, virtually, maybe in person, but mostly virtually due to the pandemic. Some of our students are wondering, how has COVID impacted recruitment or your firm? And we talked a little bit about that before, where there's a strong need for accountants. Is there anything in particular that with a pandemic that has impacted recruitment? Are all the interviews online? I think that's one of the questions they want to know about.
I mean, I can jump in on that. From PwC's perspective, we're absolutely virtual, right? We go through that process, and that's true for campus hires or experienced hires. So folks who may have a couple more years in their career, it's become all virtual. I think it's allowed us a lot more flexibility, right? To talk to people and to fit into schedules, talk to people from different parts of the country. I like being on campus, so I think that's disappointed, and I think the students are disappointed too, right? That we don't get to be on campus right now. Fingers crossed, very soon we'll get to be back in person on campus. I think it's opened some doors for us to be able to recruit differently, because we don't go to every single campus. It's impossible for every firm to be at every campus. So it has allowed us kind of some in-ways at some other campuses we didn't necessarily have a connection with, and get our name out there, which I think has been very positive to, be able to grow our pool of applicants at PwC. I think that it's a benefit that I'm not sure, I think we will continue to come onto campuses and spend time with students, but from a interview perspective, I would anticipate that we keep it in this virtual way, because I think it's been very beneficial to us.
And how do you think, what advice would you give to students to prepare for a virtual interview?
So find a place that is quiet, right? And that your Wi-Fi is working ahead of time, that your volume works, your camera works. And as silly as this seems, because as someone who's worked a lot of remote days, make sure your lower half is also professional. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody stand up on camera and I'm like, those are great pajama pants. Like, do not have those in an interview.
So funny. Yes. And to be, and probably to also maybe do a little research on the company, have a little bit of understanding of the company that they're interviewing with. Okay.
I will say virtually, I went through the recruiting process for Amazon virtually, and we're still 100% remote, but there's, like I said, there's 14 different leadership principles that you should have examples for. I honestly had a sheet of paper taped to my wall right behind my camera, and I had all 14 leadership principles there, and I was able to use that as a quick cheat sheet to just kind of remind myself to use the language that Amazon uses. So I would say, like, most of the firms that you guys are going to be interviewing with, Amazon has leadership principles, but most of the firms will also have some sort of culture that is woven into the way that they speak, the way that they like to hear things. So being able to weave that into your language can also help. And I would also say, make sure your background is professional. Make sure there's not like crazy posters in the background, and have a backup plan. If your Wi-Fi goes down, like, make sure you have the dial-in on your phone ready to go, so you're able to just dial in and at least continue on a phone call rather than just on video.
How should a student dress for a virtual interview? I get this question a lot in my classroom.
That's going to be very different for Amazon than a lot of other places. As you see, I'm just in a hoodie. This is honestly what I wear most of the days here at Amazon, and they don't really care how you dress. They want you to come as you are, come in what you're comfortable with. And so even in the virtual interviews, I would say maybe wear a polo collared shirt or a nice blouse for a woman, but you don't have to do anything fancy. Like, I would say definitely don't show up to the interview in a suit. They'll kind of be thinking, oh, this guy doesn't really understand the culture, or this girl doesn't understand the culture. Like, just a little bit more casual for if you are interviewing for Amazon. They want to focus on what you bring to the table, your skills, your traits, and being able to describe the impact that you have with your work and what you're excited about.
Okay, great advice. Wonderful. Would anyone like to chime in on your advice on how a student should prepare or dress for an interview, a virtual interview?
I'll go a little against,
a
little against what Alex said, and I would tell you to show up no differently than you would show up for an in-person interview at a professional services firm, right? I appreciate I don't wear a suit every day, right? I have just a blazer on over my blouse today, but like, in general, I would suggest, right, we're in front of clients a lot, and we're not going to have those same abilities. That's not to say on a regular day I don't wear maybe a sweatshirt while I'm on videos, but I would say from an interview perspective, I would recommend dressing similarly to how you would when you show up to an in-person interview.
Okay, great. And is there a particular quality that you're looking for, a particular soft skill that you're looking for from a candidate in a resume?
For Amazon, we index high on the learn and be curious, that that we see kind of opportunities with where you're learning and growing your skill set and looking for new opportunities. Amazon was built on kind of that gritty kind of get your hands dirty and experiment, and it's okay to fail. So fail forward is a very big trait here at Amazon. So learn and be curious, ask questions. Even in the interview, like, you can show that you want to learn and be curious by explaining what you're doing, but then asking questions to the interviewer as they're talking, and learning more about the Amazon culture, what you'll be doing, and how you can really help and push initiatives forward here at Amazon.
All right, wonderful. That's great advice. I have one more question that I'd like to pose to everyone. I love this question. Do you have one piece of advice for students that you wish you knew when you were in college? Erica or Chris, would you like to jump in?
I can say, kind of going back to my prior comment about CPA, sitting for your CPA exam. I do think it's really important if you're going to be an accounting major that you take those next steps to get that completed. I think that that is a huge accomplishment, and whatever you can do to, you know, whether you continue on when you're done with your undergrad to get your master's, so you can sit, look into, you know, test prep classes, things like that. Just don't sell yourself short, I think, when it comes to that. I think that, you know, a lot of people get discouraged. I know for me, like I had to set up this whole schedule where like I had to I focused Virginia, you know, it's like in sections. So like each quarter I focused on one section and moved on, and I studied every day for a certain amount of time. Like I basically just made it like almost like a job commitment. So, I mean, I think that that is something that I would definitely recommend, that I would recommend anybody that's still in school. Just don't sell yourself short, and continue on to get that CPA done.
And active positions for internships, externships are already on Handshake. Are there any deadlines that the students need to be aware of? The deadlines are on Handshake, I believe. You're actively searching for summer. Let me rephrase that question. You're actively looking for summer interns.
Correct.
Right, correct.
That's actually my piece of advice I wish I had paid more attention to, probably, was of what the deadlines were and kind of how they fall together, and what year you should be looking at what opportunities and thinking about that. And each firm's a little different. So make sure you kind of ask in the breakout sessions. And this is where my recruiter will also yell at me, because I think, you know, my other piece of advice is like, talk to all the firms, like especially from a professional services like audit firm, like PwC, right? Like we all kind of do similar things. I think we demonstrated that with our answers earlier, but we all are a little different, like, right? We all have different cultures. So really get to know the people, whether it's alumni who already work at the firm, you know, classmates who have done internships. Look at the culture of all the different things, because you're going to spend a lot of quality time with your coworkers, and you want to make sure that that culture is right for you, because that's ultimately really what distinguishes the firms from one another. And that's important to your day-to-day kind of well-being.
That's good advice. And then the firms are somewhat similar, but they each have their own little characteristics, which is, yes, very true. Chris, any advice you'd give our students that you wish you knew back in college, looking back?
Yeah, so I would say with regards to the CPA exam, I mean, if you can get it done before you actually start working, that would be highly advantageous, because it's definitely not impossible to do while you're working. I just think once you're in the field, it becomes that much more of a stress on your life to get that done. And you definitely see a lot of people fall through the cracks, and you see people who say a lot, they wish they had, you know, done it before they had actually started, you know, with one of the firms, especially if you're joining a public accounting firm. And so, you know, as much time as you don't think you have now, you're probably going to have a lot more time now than you do when you start working for one of the firms. So if you can get it out of the way, or even like not the whole thing, even if you can get a couple of parts, or, you know, 2 parts or something like that, go ahead and do it, because it's going to make your life that much easier if you do start in the field. So
Yes, yes.
I 100% agree with that. I started at Grant Thornton, and I did the Becker's program that's 2 months long through May and June. And GT, they covered all of it. And the first day I walked in GT, I had a $5,000 check because I got my CPA bonus, which was really nice. And most firms will give you multiple options on when you can start. Like I think I started with GT in September. So I had 3 months to kind of get that done. And, you know, there's blackout period for testing. So I had about a couple weeks to just relax before I really jumped in and got into my consulting life. Before we end, I did want to say for Amazon, for the AFRP program, I did drop the link in the chat for interns. So those would be right for juniors. you have to apply in the next week or so. So they're saying, my recruiter was telling me apply as soon as possible if you guys are interested in interviewing. And then for our full-time employees, so those would be seniors, apply in the next 2 weeks or so. They were giving me a February 11th date for that one. For sophomores, we do have our 2023 internship opening up in April and May. So check back on that site in a couple months and you should be able to see some great opportunities lining up for that.
And students, those opportunities should be on Handshake as well. Erika, Nicole, Chris, anyone want to piggyback on that? You know, as far as recruitment deadlines, I think all the firms are looking for internships and candidates for internships and positions after graduation, correct?
Yes, we have opportunities for 2022 interns and associates, as well as the 2023 internship program posted until March 15th.
Okay, good to know. Chris, Nicole, would you like to chime in before we close this session?
Yeah, I was just gonna say all of our information's on Handshake. Everything should be up there. And yeah, we're recruiting for all those periods as well.
Agreed.
Okay.
And
So
our
students,
breakout session, we can also go through the specific dates and opportunities by year as well, if that would be helpful. So please join our breakout session.
yes, students, please join the breakout sessions to get to know the panelists here. It's a great way to connect and to begin your networking. With this, we close our 4 p.m. session and we're going to begin our 4:30 session soon. Our breakout sessions are from 5 to 5 p.m. and all of the employers will be in those breakout rooms so that you can move around or stay with one particular breakout room and ask your questions. Thank you very much for joining us today. This has been great. I appreciate it. Thank you for your support.
Everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Students, stay here. Please don't go anywhere. Sit in that seat, and we are going to bring in our next set of panelists. All righty. We'll begin in just a moment. I think we're waiting for just a few more people. We have an exciting session here at 4:30. Let me just count how many people I've got in here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. We've got Christian. Please forgive me if I mispronounce anyone's name. I did practice before earlier today, but I also have a very challenging last name. So please feel free to correct me. We have Christian Vigil. Is that correct, from KPMG?
Vigil, it was close enough.
Vigil,
So
thank you. Yes, yes. I remember there was Shay was in there before. You took over for Shay, is that correct? Shamay?
yes, take over for Shama, yes. And
Yes,
we had an interim in between as well, Misty. So you might have worked with her as well.
Yes. So we have Christian with us from KPMG. We have Jessica from Aronson. We have Ankit Patel, is that correct, from Kearney?
Yep.
Okay, Hannah from ENY, and Helene and Helene, thank you, is from PB Mars. I'm Peggy Tsaragotis. PB Maris, pardon me, sorry. I'm Peggy Tsaragotis. I am an instructor, faculty in the accounting department at George Mason University, and I'm excited to be here with you today. And joining us today are a large number of students who are interested in hearing from you about why you went into accounting, what you find exciting about it, and what you're looking for from candidates from who are interested in applying for positions with your company. So I'm just going to start with the first question. And I asked this of all of our panelists because each panelist has a slightly different story, so it's kind of interesting. Why did you go into accounting and what do you find exciting about it? Now, I know that Christian, I'll just start with Christian. Christian, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
So my name is Christian Vigil, and I'm the current university recruiter for KPMG. So this story is a little bit different to myself with how I answer these questions, as I currently with KPMG recruit for accounting positions. So I am looking more towards the individuals in yourself and students, and how your experience is aligned to a career within tax, audit, or advisory, which are 3 practices that we help out students find jobs in that are interested in accounting. So what's brought me into this line of work, is that passion for helping bridge that gap in actual coursework and what you do within your undergraduate career, and putting that into practice and finding a skilled job within a very luxurious career in accounting that for many exceeds expectations, as many people have a firm idea of what accounting is, but as the individuals in this panel will let you know, experiences vary and there's so much different aspects of it that you as a student could get into. And as always, me in a university recruiting position, I'd love to connect with you more on these opportunities in accounting that accounting presents.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jessica, why did you go into accounting? What do you find interesting about it?
I was going to say my background is probably similar to Christian. So I'm actually as well just a campus recruiter at Aronson. I did not come from an accounting background. Actually, I came from more of a financial consulting background, but I absolutely love the accounting space. I think that just the campus recruiting aspect of it and connecting with students is really exciting. It's definitely a really rewarding career for all of you all in here and gives you a lot of opportunities to explore. At Aronson specifically, we allow our interns to explore audit and tax, which is, two of the main branches in addition to consulting or advisory that you might be interested in. Of course, there's times of the year like right now where our accountants are super busy, but for the most part, it has a strong work-life balance and lots of career and job security as well. So it's definitely a really good career. Again, not an accountant myself, but I'm a numbers girl. I was a math major in college, and like I said, went into financial consulting. So really similar, and I just have a passion for numbers, which is kind of why I wanted to join the accounting space and do campus recruiting.
Okay, great.
Peggy, I can go next because I actually am an accountant, so I can answer the question, why did I go into accounting? I'm Helene Weissman. I am an audit partner with PB Mayers, and I actually went into accounting because somebody told me that I would have no problem getting a job when I graduated from college if I went into accounting. So here I am, many years later, still doing it. And they were right. I didn't have any problem getting a job. I really like the aspect of working with the different clients. And as an auditor, I liked the aspect of getting out and going to their offices. A little different now, post-pandemic or still in the pandemic, however you like to look at it, because we spent well over a year being completely remote doing audits from, everybody was working from home, and some clients really like it that way and don't want to see us anymore. So we're still doing remote for some and others were not. But that's what I like about it. I like, while I'm good at working with numbers, that's not the part that I love the most. I love the most working with the clients. So.
And I think accounting involves, I always have felt that accounting involves working with other people. It's not,
yes.
It's not an isolating type of experience. You do have a lot of communication, whether it's verbal or in person or virtual or written. You're working with people. You're making a difference because you're in the bullseye of the financial information, really.
Yes, and I always say that while Jessica was a math major, accounting is not math. I was not a math major. Accounting is a lot of theory. You do work with numbers, but it's a lot of theory and
process.
So.
And strategy, helping companies develop the proper strategy to move forward. Yes. Thank you. That was wonderful. Ankit, would you like to chime in on this?
Yeah, sure. My name is Ankit Patel. I also an accountant. I'm a senior manager at Carney & Company in their audit practice. And similar to what Helene said, someone did tell me that in college too. I think it was my accounting professor, that you will never be jobless with accounting. There's always opportunities available if you go into audit or if you go into tax, whatever interests you. For me personally, coming through Mason, audit really kind of talked to me. So ended up choosing Carney because we were specifically working in audit for the federal government. And I've been there ever since college, going on over 12 years now.
And some of our students may not know about Carney. Carney is a little unique. the client is the different agencies in the federal government, correct?
Right. We do not do any taxes or any public work. All of our clients are government agencies.
Yes, I met an associate from Kearney one time. They had a class visit into my class, and they had gone to, I think it was Antarctica for an audit. Yes, there's some interesting opportunities.
Definitely.
Wonderful. Hannah, can we hear about, what made you go into accounting? What inspired you?
Yeah, of course. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hannah. I'm currently an audit manager at EY. So my story started a bit different because before I went to college, I actually did not want to go into accounting. So I was telling myself I would do anything, any other business major, but not accounting, because at that time I thought accounting is like, I have only one option, which is doing bookkeeping. Until I went into my first accounting course, that totally changed my mind. Like, it just clicked to me. Then my first accounting professor worked at EY. Coincidentally, few others accounting professor of mine also work at EY. That's how I'm here, and that's also why I'm here and working until now. Same thing with a kid. I'm also working in the government and public sector side. My main client is a federal client. And I was also told that I will never have to worry about job. And I think that's true. I have never had to worry about job. Being here ever since, always have job, always have work. And there is a lot of different opportunities, like if you want to do audit, if you want to do tax, if you want to do internals, operational accounting, there are a lot of options. You don't have to stick with one thing.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. What do you find most exciting about your job, or or looking back at your career? Is there a particular moment that you found you hold in your heart as a very exciting moment?
Yeah, I think one thing I like most about my job is like having the opportunity to work with different people, learning about their different experiences. And also the thing about public accounting is you don't have to sit and working on one thing year over year, because you're going to switch client, you're going to work on different area. This year you probably audit payroll. Next year you audit estimate, environment and disposal liability estimate. You'll learn a lot from the work that you work on, especially on my side of the assurance.
Okay, great. Anybody else like that's wonderful. It's good that there's no boredom. That's important. Anybody would like to maybe piggyback on that as to maybe a special moment where you found that that excited you about accounting?
I'll definitely say the
Rewarding
work travel, going on site visits, getting to actually meet your clients face to face, seeing what their business is, forging those relationships. I think that's very important. And even with your teams, just working with different people, like Hannah said, you learn a whole lot, not only from your client, but from your teams also.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go on to our next question, unless anybody else would like to jump in on that question. What is a typical career path? And I'll start with Helene. What is a typical career path at your company? And where do students begin their career? What's the entry-level position look like?
I think we have the traditional path at our firm. Like most firms, you start out as a staff, then you become a senior. We do have a supervisor level. Not every firm has a supervisor level, then manager, and then either senior manager or director. If you're on the partner path, you become a senior manager. If you don't want to be on the partner path, then you can become a director. And then if you go from senior manager to partner. So it's, very traditional. Hard to say how long that takes somebody. It sort of depends on each person. I would say anywhere from 10 to 15 years to become partner, depending on how quickly you want to progress, how, that people have, some people work part-time because they have families and they don't want the full-time stress that sometimes comes along with being in public accounting. But so
you've been in public accounting a long time, so you must enjoy it.
Well, I do enjoy it. I probably been in it way longer than any of the other panelists. Yes, I'm less than 10 years from retirement. So yes, I've been in it for a long time. I think especially things are different, as you progress up, and the different responsibilities that you have as you move, through the different levels at the firm. And so, things are a little bit different as a partner. And I've been very lucky at my firm. I am actually a member of I've been elected to the board of directors of our firm. And I was the first woman elected to the board of directors at our firm, which was exciting. So that's fun. And I'm also the regional service line leader for A&A for the northern region for our firm. So, I do have client responsibilities. I also have a lot of non-billable, non-client responsibilities. So I think my favorite thing is being on the board, because that is very impactful.
And another question that's coming through from students is, what kind of extracurricular opportunities may be helpful? Like, what do you suggest that they participate in on campus or outside of school to help enhance their resume and their LinkedIn or Handshake profile? Jessica, I'll pose that question over to you.
Yeah, I was going to say I can jump in. So something that, at George Mason, obviously you have a lot of clubs and organizations to get involved in. Definitely if you want to get involved in, an accounting society or Beta Alpha Psi, I definitely recommend those. But honestly, any sort of extracurriculars, in my opinion, definitely stand out. And especially if you're holding leadership roles in those extracurriculars, that's always something that I look for as well. So even if you're a member of the yoga club, but maybe you're president of the yoga club, and if you want to do something, that you're passionate about. But definitely a good mix of maybe some business organizations and just some organizations that maybe are just a passion of yours. I think that's always awesome. And then outside of that, with work experiences, I feel like when I'm talking to candidates, they always come to me and sometimes they say, I don't have any prior accounting internship experience or whatever it may be. But, you have to start somewhere when you get an accounting internship. For me, at least, I expect that maybe that is your first accounting internship and that you don't have any prior experience. So any sort of, I always say, like, customer service experience, honestly, is maybe underrated. I definitely value it a lot more than maybe sometimes you might think. And so even if you I was talking to someone earlier that worked at Chick-fil-A, but working at Chick-fil-A, for example, he's learned a lot of customer service skills on how to work with customers. He's learned some time management skills, all of which are really important. So any type of work experiences that you all have, customer service really stands out to me as well. Or even if you just have starting off, before you get an accounting internship, even if you just have a data entry job or an administrative assistant job, really just something to kind of get you, a little bit of office or business experience, I think that is always helpful as well. But that would be my main recommendations, and definitely don't undervalue your experience, especially that customer service experience. I know a lot of jobs that you get in high school, early college are, Chick-fil-A, working at a grocery store, working at a golf course, whatever it may be. And in accounting, you work with a lot of clients. And so those customer service skills you learn there definitely translate, over well to working with clients in accounting.
That's good advice. And many of the students at George Mason University are holding part-time jobs at all sorts of different types of companies to help them, finance their college. So Christian, I'm going to put that question over to you. What are you looking for from a resume and from students as far as extracurricular activities, maybe a little bit of experience? And something I didn't mention in our previous panel sessions is that resumes need to be very clean and easy to read, because you go through them quickly, I imagine.
For sure. I would honestly recommend just having your resume reviewed multiple times from either your peers or somebody trusted to you before your submission to, I would say, any of these full-time or internship opportunities. Especially, I know that during my time at George Mason, I actually graduated in 2019. Woohoo! So during my time there, I really was involved in just opportunities for resume workshop or resume reviews where I could get hands-on with the actual professionals in the field who were able to, you know, also just make the structure look nice, but also really add an emphasis into how I sell myself with the experience that I do have. You know, a lot of the times you think that your position might not be directly involved in anything with accounting, but you'd be surprised on how you can really sell some of your experience that you do have within example, a lot of individuals do go down a customer service route or go down something that involves you know, monetary management for a company of some sort. You can really sell some of that experience on your resume in order to add some real world practicality to it, as well as, you know, also give just a general idea of what your interests are in accounting. So I would definitely do that, as well as just connecting with the events that are available between your career services and, you know, the partnerships that we have with all these awesome companies like KPMG. Just really getting a face to a candidate is so important in just building your network and your, you know, ability to just continue on with the process. A lot of times these events have partners or, you know, managers or just very senior associates who have the experience to really help you find the path that you're looking for. Because, you know, it isn't a cookie cutter route for everybody in accounting. There's so many different practices and avenues of work that you can go into that you really have to explore those options throughout your time in undergraduate, and really, I would say, make that network with professionals as well as just other individuals interested in accounting. You'll never know when you could use a referral. So yeah, that would be my choice.
Let me just piggyback on this. So you graduated in 2019. So you really were a pandemic new hire, so to speak.
Oh yes, yes.
Okay.
I've spent more time working at home in my room than I have ever in an office. So feels this is normal.
Do you feel like you're still working like with a team and having that collaboration, that communication?
Oh, for sure. For sure, especially within university recruiting, you really have to make that effort for communication, especially when working with so many different, you know, people and different partners. It takes, you know, being in virtual space doesn't really add any, I would say, limitations to the amount of productivity that we can get done. It just really is being able to establish those guidelines with everyone beforehand that really makes it a make or break. And luckily, I would say that, you know, in year 3 now of pandemic time, you know, for many of us, we have had to adjust to this new normal. So it really just also is a consciousness of everybody to understand that everybody reacts differently to it, but with time it comes.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I want to just pose the next question to Ankit. If you were to go back to being a student in college, what advice would you give to yourself now, looking back? Like, I wish I, you know, would have, could have.
I wish I seeked out more Excel classes. Starting out, the only Excel classes that were available were really finance classes and nothing really in accounting. But I'm sure that there was some electives or something that I could have taken. I didn't really know how Excel heavy, like the real accounting world would be. So definitely the Excel courses. The English courses that we took, I thought were great. And a lot of people don't think that writing skills are that necessary and relevant in accounting, but you will find out very quickly that they are very relevant and you need very strong writing skills to kind of succeed in your career.
Yes, and students, I recently heard that some students are also seeking Excel certification. So if you have an Excel certification, put that on your resume, put that on your Handshake, LinkedIn. Any kind of technical skill is very helpful and should be on your resume. For sure. In addition to technical skills, you know, what other skills critical skills are you looking for from candidates? I'll open that up to the entire panel. Anyone want to jump in?
I can add to that. Well, besides Excel, of course, I keep mentioning that, but like other skills, like teamwork skills, very important because you work in a team of different people with different backgrounds. So I would say having that teamwork skill, leadership skills important, and you can learn that definitely at school when you put in different projects. I remember when I was at school, I was sometimes kind of mad putting into a group where people will not really cooperate, but you didn't realize that how much you learn from that situation, because in real world you will always work in a teams, and there are people like they sometimes have too much work on their plate, or they have situation that they need your help. Sometimes it takes skills to talk to those teammates to find out what it is and to push the work forward.
Yes, that's good advice. And Helene, what advice could you give, a new graduate or someone looking for an internship? And looking back, what advice would you have given yourself, had you known all this at that time?
Oh gosh, well, you asked me to look back a long time. I
Well,
graduated in
a quick little,
1987.
journey
Let's see.
back, not a long journey, right?
I think what I would tell myself is to get the CPA exam out of the way quickly. The longer you wait, the harder your job is. Not waiting doesn't make your job harder, but as you progress through your career, what you're doing is more complicated at work, takes more time, and you'll have less time to study. Then you have families, and all of a sudden, you haven't really paid attention to the exam. So I would say, as quickly as you can when you graduate, study for and get the exam out of the way.
Okay.
Doesn't get any easier the longer you wait.
Right. And for all of the students in this session right now, all of these firms are actively hiring. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're hiring for internships, externships. Well, the externship is, was linked to the internship, but also positions after graduation, correct?
Yes. We're hiring. Yes, I think we are. I don't know where we are on our interns for this summer. I think we're still looking for more, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not in charge of that.
Sure.
But we're just hiring. So, yeah.
There are many jobs available in accounting, students, and you can find them all on Handshake. And all of these panelists are going to stick around for our breakout sessions from 5 to 5:30. So I encourage you to begin that connection, begin that networking. Any last piece of advice for students as they prepare for virtual interviews? What are some of maybe the little mishaps that maybe you've seen with a student in a virtual interview or candidate in a virtual interview going, oh, I wish they would have known better, didn't do this, or maybe have done this instead? Any advice for virtual interviews and how to prepare for these virtual interviews?
I can jump in quickly. I would say just, I know at least when we interview at Aronson, we'll send you the instructions beforehand. I know a lot of you might be familiar with Zoom, but a lot of businesses might use other programs. Like we use Microsoft Teams, for example. My advice is just to test your technology beforehand. That way you can at least limit the amount of potential technology challenges on the day of the interview. So test it beforehand so that you're ready to go. Again, if something happens, it's totally okay. But if you test it beforehand, it'll limit your chances there of something happening. And then otherwise, I know when you're doing a virtual interview, it's different. At least I know when I'm working, I just a little bit more casually, but still present yourself professionally. Even though it's virtually, I still would recommend, look professional, look like you're ready to go. And yeah, I would say those are my two biggest things. Just, still remain professional, look professional, act professional, communicate professionally, even though it is virtual and it might feel a little bit more laid back than in person, and test your technology beforehand.
Try not to be late.
Yes, be on time, maybe a few minutes early.
Especially with a virtual interview, there's no traffic.
Right, exactly.
Exactly, absolutely. Anyone else before we wrap up this 4:30 session would like to give a piece of advice or a little inspirational or share an exciting moment in your career?
I can just go off and just off of the general topic of, your presence virtually, that really does matter, I would say, in our current day and age, as a lot of our companies work, and the work that our partners and clients do is within a virtual setting. You should be aware of how you present yourself in those platforms to really, make an impact or express the person that you want to express. So just a general piece of advice, and that, it's never too early to get involved in any of these opportunities. So please reach out to any of us just to get connected or get started, because the process just really does start whenever you do want to start it. So.
And do some mock interviews, some practice dry runs and things like that, for sure. Well, students, this wraps up our 5 p.m. session, and we're going to go into breakout rooms now with all of the panelists. Please stay here and go into a breakout room. You'll receive instructions. And thank you, panelists. Thank you, all of the speakers and presenters today. This has been very beneficial for our students. We're very excited. Thank you for your support of our students. And please hold on. You're going to go into a breakout room where you'll be able to meet many of our students, and they'll be able to connect with you. Thank you. This has been great. Thank you very much. Students, go to the breakout rooms and